It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Good morning and welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News on this Wednesday, March the 8th. Coming to you live from the Panama Canal. I'm not entirely sure about the Wi-Fi. It's been really spotty today, although I've had good Wi-Fi pretty much for the whole cruise, but it's been a little more difficult today once we got into the canal. For those of you that follow along, I'll bring you up to date on my situation, but also we have just gotten through the Gaeton locks. So we are now proceeding at about 7 knots through the central part of the canal. We'll probably be in the canal until 6 or 7 o'clock tonight when we finally get out on the Pacific side. All right, for those of you that have not been able to follow me the last couple days, let's bring you up to date. By the way, we do have a couple news stories today. Not a whole lot, but a little. Medical emergency on the Meraviglia. Carnival Cruise Line warns passengers. Norwegian Does It Again. Plus, Norwegian's going to deploy 3 to Asia Pacific. That and lots more live here at 11 o'clock today. If you're listening via the podcast, you're always welcome aboard. Excuse me. You can access the podcast via my blog, which is accessadventure.net, or wherever you get your podcast from. Just search for travel and cruise industry news. And no, folks, that the cough that you're hearing, I am not sick. I'm not any of those things. This is a side effect of the chemo medication I'm on, and it has decided to expel some of the bad stuff that's in my lungs, so it's making me cough and cough up yucky stuff. So anyway, I know what it is, so I'm not sick or anything. Now, all right, most of you are familiar with the situation that I had last week with somebody hacking my Google account, changing the passwords. I went through all the crap trying to get back on. Google locked me out for 48 hours. After I spent 48 hours in Google jail, I got the code to reestablish my account, and I got some help from Jason actually on Saturday morning, just before the Uber driver was to pick me up. And what he decided, we were having so much trouble getting back on Google that I needed to wipe out all my memory. So we did, and I got back on Google. So I was partially back. It did not put me immediately on YouTube, but I did get my Gmail back and that kind of thing. Then the Uber driver picks me up. I go to the port, and apparently he turned my carry-on bag upside down in the trunk and knocked my phone and selfie stick out of my bag. I did not discover it until I was about 4 or 5 steps away from the car, because I had to walk a little distance to get the wheelchair service. And when I realized the phone wasn't there, I turned around to holler at him, and he was gone. So he did find the phone later, tried to get it back to the port, but it was after the ship had sailed. He did go through the phone and contacted my niece and said, look, there's no problem. I'll get the phone back to him, when he gets back to Fort Lauderdale. So I have no phone. when I went to log back into YouTube and to Facebook, remember I had wiped the memory out. They both require two-way authentication. So they'd send me a code on my email, and I'd give them the code right back. And then they'd send me, they wanted another code from my phone. I don't have the phone. And I couldn't get around the crap to do a second method other than using the phone. So eventually, my friend Nate, friend and partner Nate from Alaska, got to Fort Lauderdale, is in Fort Lauderdale now. He connected with the Uber driver, got my phone, got it charged, and yesterday we were able to get YouTube back and Facebook back. So I'm back to normal with the exception of I don't have a phone. When I was in Cartagena yesterday, my intention was to try to get into town someplace and buy a cheap phone that I could use for the rest of the cruise. Well, I got through all the jungle part of Cartagena and got to the cab stand area. And the only person there that had what he called was an accessible van wanted $55 each way for a 3-mile trip. And then when I asked him, is this a ramp that I ride up the ramp or do you have a lift? He says, oh, no, you get in the van like normal. I said, what are you going to do with a scooter? Oh, I'll put it in the back. I said, dude, this thing weighs 175 pounds. Oh, I'll take it all apart. I said, no, thank you. So I didn't go out. It was too far for me to try to make it on the scooter and back. So no phone, no pictures, none of the things that I normally do on the ship as far as videos and pictures go. But I'll be, keeping you up to date on the Zandam as we go. So, all right, let's get on with the business at hand right after this.
Do you have a bad back, bad hips, bad knees, or any other mobility issues? Think about Scootaround. For scooters, walkers, wheelchairs, even oxygen needs, delivered right to your cabin. Scootaround for all your mobility needs on your upcoming cruise.
I can't tell if it's picking that up or not. If that was a big dead space, I apologize. It did not play for me. At least the audio did not play. So I'm not 100% sure. All right. I'll be back with today's news after a quick word from one of our network sponsors. The top story today has to do with the Meraviglia. And by the way, today, folks, is National Peanut Cluster Day for those of you that have to have some kind of food. It's also International Women's Day. And that's really the important one today. So we honor all of you ladies out there for all that you do. So congratulations on International Women's Day. All right, the cruise ship MSC Meraviglia made an emergency stop at Port Miami to medevac a passenger in need of urgent medical assistance. The ship was at MSC Cruises' private island Ocean Key in the Bahamas when the captain announced on the PA system that they needed to depart to Miami in order for the Coast Guard to perform the evacuation. According to vessel tracking websites, the cruise ship made a brief stop near Port Miami where the Coast Guard medevac the patient. A guest sailing aboard the Meraviglia reported that a person was rescued in the lagoon while the ship was in Ocean Key. They had rescued him from the water and he was struggling to breathe after receiving medical treatment. They mentioned a second cardiac attack. Luckily, he had a pulse, but the situation was pretty serious. Coast Guard standard procedure is first to explore taking the patient directly off the ship via helicopter. The second, which is the case that they use here, because it was the only option to give the individual the best chance of surviving, is to take a smaller vessel alongside the ship. And that's what they did. All right. I was just looking, the machine ate my picture of John. Was actually going to put a picture of John up for this story, John Heald. One of Carnival's public faces has warned that the cruise line's passengers about a scheme to steal their money. While pirates present no major threat to cruise ships, land-based criminals have targeted Carnival Cruise Line customers. These bad actors are preying on Carnival passengers' relationship with John Heald, a bold attempt to steal money from vulnerable people. The scheme should not work, but it remains a risk because some people simply trust too much without applying simple common sense to the situation. In this case, the scammers are leveraging the relationship between Carnival Cruise Line's guests and loyalty ambassador John Heald, plus roughly 500,000 of the cruise loyal customers. Heald runs an incredibly popular Facebook page on which he not only answers questions but also fields complaints. His style is engaging. He builds relationship, making people feel that they've been heard, even if there's no actual resolution to the problem. Excuse me. Wow. Another little sip. Anyway, they've issued a warning. So please do not fall victim to this scam. If somebody says they're John Heald and they try to get money from you, don't. Just plain don't. All right, the next story today. Norwegian has done it again. Norwegian Cruise Line has announced a significant itinerary change to its upcoming sailing of the Norwegian Joy just days before its departure on March the 11th. The cruise line has cited congestion concerns at the port as the reason for the change. The port change is part of a long list of changes Norwegian has made recently to itineraries of various cruise ships. On the 13th, only one other cruise ship was scheduled to be in the port of Roatan. If any of you have been to Roatan, there's clearly room for more than one ship. The original itinerary was for the Joy, included stops in Mexico, Honduras, and Belize. The stop in Roatan has now been replaced by Bimini. The guests were notified of the change, citing unforeseen circumstances and crowding at the port. I'm sorry. Norwegian, this sucks. You've done this how many times recently? And then the excuses you give make no sense. one ship is in Roatan that day, and it's a small ship. I've sailed it. So there's not crowding at the port. So if you're going to do something like this and screw people a week before their cruise, at least give them the real reason. All right. Another Norwegian story today. At least I don't get to yell at them for this one. Norwegian Cruise Line announced a record deployment of 3 ships to the Asia Pacific in 2024 and 2025. Norwegian Spirit will turn to Australia and New Zealand for a 3rd consecutive season, while Norwegian Sun and Norwegian Sky will make their debut in the region and also sail Asian itineraries. I've not been on Spirit. I've been on both Sun and Sky. I like both of those ships. They're small. They're a little older, which is right up my alley. All right, that's it on the news portion of today for today. So let's jump over in the chat room and see who's here. Dennis is with us. Joanne's here. Hi, Joanne. There's Katie. Hi, Katie. Good to see you, Chillie. Yeah, thank you. Mass Cruiser's with us from Ports Unknown. Thank you, MC. Yeah, Chillie's back on YouTube finally. Man, it's been a tough week. Sonny's with us. Hi, Sonny. Emma's here. Oh, my, what a story. My family and I were a little worried and couldn't figure out what had happened to you. And I still saw you posting on Twitter. You were missed. Thank you, Emma. I do appreciate that. All these password recovery option stuff, I have no patience for that stuff. Me too. And then YouTube forces you to do the double thing. Mike says, scoot around, plug played. Okay, I just couldn't hear it. There's Fraser. Hi, Fraser. Fraser's from Scotland. No telling where he is. He does a lot of cruising. Nikki's with us up in Jacksonville. Hi, Nick. Greetings from the pedicure chair. Nice. I did get in the barber chair today. Got the locks shorn. Carol's with us. MC says, I love how cruise lines claim reducing carbon footprint as a reason for reducing time in ports only on certain days. So do they love the planet only on certain days and only on certain ships? I agree. Katie said I was going into chilly withdrawals. Well, I do appreciate that, Katie. And now hopefully I have things set up so this won't happen again. And God knows I will never be without my phone. That was awful. Yo, 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 Brooklyn in the house. Hey, Eddie. Good to see you. By the way, if you're wondering, folks, I'm sitting up on the Lido deck, actually right next to Dive In, which is, combination burger dog house and taco shack. Keep your phone in your pocket. Yeah, I know. But I usually attach it to the selfie stick for when I'm in the wheelchair getting pushed in the chair so I can get it up quickly. So yeah, I've got to change those procedures, obviously. Thank you, Joanne. So anyway, I'm up on the leaded deck, so there could be a little background noise. They're also doing a sale of Panama Canal merchandise, hats and T-shirts and the like. And we are coming right along in the canal. So I think probably 6 o'clock tonight we'll get out of the canal. It's been interesting. I mean, a lot of people have been either on deck 3, deck 6, or deck 10 up on the front of the ship. I found that the most interesting place to watch was in my cabin on the bow cam. Because not only do you have the absolute perfect view of everything that's happening, but the cruise director carries on a running commentary of what we're seeing. And then you're not out in the heat. So I rather enjoyed sitting there before the show because it's got around time to doing the show. And my signal in the cabin is not the best. But I enjoyed getting into the Gaton locks, watching it on the bow cam. So, all right, that's going to wrap me up for today. Quite frankly, I haven't even looked at the schedule on what days I'm in port. Without having a camera, I'm not going to worry that much about it. So for now, unless I come up with a special announcement, I will do the shows at 11 the remainder of this trip. That's at least my thought. Eddie says I need a real drink. It's definitely time. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap me up for today. As always, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, think about cruising, and hopefully one day soon we'll all get together on the high seas. This is the old fat travel guy. See everybody back here at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Have a great day, y'all.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chillie's Cruises.